Hey, Eli here. Today I'm going to talk about cameras with higher resolution and lower resolution megapixel counts or sensors. The theory always is that a lower megapixel sensor, is better in low light. I kind of want to see if that's true. When it comes to print, I've looked at pixels on pixels on pixels over the last 17 years. I've used dozens of cameras. I've taken well over 1 million photos, if not 2 million. I've taken shutters into the end of their lives, and so uh, yeah, I've had a lot of cameras and taken a lot of photos, weddings, families, portraits, you name it. Um, you know, Back in the day, you couldn't shoot at high ISO; you'd have to use a flash. And as cameras are getting better, the high ISO capability is getting better. Uh, the general rule has always been a lower megapixel camera is better in low light for high ISO, less grain structure. But once I started using the GFX 100S, it's kind of the opposite. It's a 100 megapixel medium format camera, so a little bit bigger than full frame, but not true medium format. It's digital, but blows everything out of the water that I've ever used. And so I've used the Canon R3, I've used the Sony A9, I mean, all of them. I've used everything for the most part. And so I want to see in print is where it really matters because I can look at pixels all day long, but what happens if I print them? So finally, I've got a printer, Canon Prograf-1000. I bought some paper. I've used lots of different papers, but for this test, I just did Pro Luster from Canon. It was reasonable, and I've got the 17 by 22 inch or 43 by 56 centimeter, and so it was just a reasonable price, and it's a good paper. I really like Hanamiel, and then I used, but it was too expensive for this test. And then I've been using Incal for my refills, so I've been refilling on my own. And printing is a whole nother video. It's very complicated. Once you get it dialed, you get excited, and it's awesome. But it takes a little while to get dialed, so expect to spend a lot of money on ink and paper. Incal helps a lot. It cost me $200 for enough to fill two sets of cartridges. And so that would have cost me $1,400 to fill all of my cartridges. So that's a lot of savings, $1,200 savings. So what I've got today in front of me, I've got 6 prints. I'm going to do this with Fuji, and I'm going to do this with Canon. So I may split from here and just split the video in half, but this is the first video. It's going to be about Fuji. We're going to do the X-T5 and the GFX 100S. I took a trip with my brother a few months ago. It was really cold up in the mountains in Idaho. -7, warmed up to the 20s. So we got out to shoot, and the sun actually came out. But we shot 100 ISO outside with both cameras. I had the GFX 100S with the 105 millimeter finger adapter and 1.4. And then I had the X-T5 with the 56 millimeter WR, the newer one, at 1.2. So pretty close field of view. I tried not to move distances, and I was able to frame pretty close. And then obviously I cropped, I think it's 8.5 by 11, the crop ratio to fit on these 17 by 22 inch prints. So I wanted to crop them the same best I could. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with the prints first, and then I'm just gonna jump on the computer, just kind of show a little bit of that, because what really matters for me is print. History on me, I've used a lot of cameras, but in 2021 I had the R5, or 2020 I bought the R5 and the R6. And then I used those from October until about August. And I decided it was a little too weird going back and forth with cameras. Editing styles were a little different between each sensor. So I went with the 20 megapixel R6 camera, bought two, and committed to a year of just using that camera. I did mix in the GFX that year, but I wanted to just use one camera. 2021 was insane. I photographed every day, felt like just nonstop. I did like 160 galleries from headshots to weddings. It was really crazy. So I was like, one body, let's use that, and I loved it. It was awesome. I got so many great images. Editing was quick, and it being 20 megapixel, I had no problems. I had clients print huge canvases, and no problem at all. So that's where I was like, well, does it matter? Why would I want a 100 megapixel or a 50 megapixel if I'm not trying to make a billboard? And so another part of this test, this is going to get weird, is because now we have all these AI features where I can take an X-T5 image and I can double the resolution or quadruple. So I can enhance the Lightroom, make it larger. So if you go to my website, I've got the pixel ratios on there. Download these images. I'll have the images for Canon, R6, R5, R6 II, R5, GFX 100S, and X-T5. They'll all be available in the same folder for each of these videos. And you go to my website and you can see more information. But yeah, so you can download those and you can compare. I photographed the prints after. I photographed, gave you the photos, the RAWs, and then the JPEGs that were output. So I outputted JPEGs at no resolution constraints. You're going to hit resolution constraints when you upload anyway. So this is best case scenario for these, for the high resolution. So, you're going to get downgraded in resolution or compression when you go up to, any type of hosting space to host your images because they have to save space. Or, you can run through JPEG Mini and, it's probably what they do, something similar. So we've got enhanced resolution, and then we did high ISO test with the Fujis. I did 8000 ISO, same settings in a dark setting, and then I did the noise reduction on the X-T5 to see how it would compare to the GFX 100S. So let's jump into these photos here on the table, and I've labeled these for you in the images so you can see what I did, so you know, enhanced. So we got the GFX 100S photo at 105 millimeter. We've got the X-T5 regular, and then we've got the enhanced version. So we've got a above camera that hopefully works out. So just to hold these up so you guys can see how large these prints are. They're not huge, but they're pretty big. They're the biggest I can print with my printing. And looking at these, I'm just going to tell you, I cannot tell much of a difference. When I get to the GFX versus the X-T5, there's a little more contrast on the GFX, a little more depth of field, slightly. Obviously more bokeh and compression, but like, oh gosh, for the size of this thing, I mean, I love this camera and I'm not going to part with it. The X-T5 with that 56 millimeter, it feels so amazing. It's so light, it's so small, and it pretty much did the same thing. It's insane. So really, really impressed. Like I'm pretty blown away, to be honest. I did enhance the resolution, and for me, my eyes are okay. My eye doctor says they're good. I can't tell so much the difference. When we get into noise reduction, that's a whole nother story, but I mean, 40 megapixels right here looks wonderful. I don't see my clients printing much more than 20 by 30 images or inches, so that I know of. And this is probably somewhere in between a professional print and some cheap print they might buy. And if they buy a cheap print, it's not going to matter. Ideally, they're buying through your galleries or through my gallery, and they're getting quality lab from Bayphoto or wherever I've set, the prints to. But yeah, so that's the, 100 ISO outside. That's what that looks like. And I photographed these in my studio at 100 ISO with some lights on a tripod locked off. So hopefully when you download the images, you can see for yourself. This isn't just for me to tell you, what is, true. I want you to go do your own research based off the tools that I've given you. And let me know in the comments if you can tell a difference in what you think and what you use. If you've chosen a smaller resolution camera for a reason or a higher for another reason. Maybe you photograph billboards, I don't know, but I don't. So the biggest, that I get is probably 20 by 30, I'm going to guess. So, all right, so now we've got the GFX 100S. Drawback to the GFX 100S is focus. I was very still, took multiple photos, and my brother's eyes still aren't completely in focus. So there's just a little back focus on this one. I was across the couch from him. It was really dark in this room. It was like a lounge. And so we were really still. And yeah, so this is the 100 millimeter. Let me just double check that. That's what I used. Yes. And then I used the 56 millimeter. So let's see this print here. And I cropped these just to fit in the same frame. So there's a little bit of crop, but nothing significant. And then over here, we're going to see in these two images, obviously the X-T5 is going to be sharper because it's in focus, or a little bit sharper. But you're starting to get, there's a little glare here, so you're going to have to look at these images online. You're starting to get a ton of noise. Not that that's bad. So there's good noise, bad noise. I don't mind noise if it looks like grain. Totally cool with me. It's creative. That's awesome. You get into 100 plus thousand ISO, you're going to start to see some, really bad noise. It's going to get way too grainy. But if you start to get color artifacts in your grain, that's where it gets weird, and you want to kind of avoid that. If you're just getting grain, that's totally cool with me. But if you start to get, you know, the RGB pixels kind of getting funky, that's when you know that's a bad, you know, camera for high ISO. So we are getting that with the X-T5. You can see a significant amount of grain in the background. That's you look for the background, the shadows, the out of focus areas, and then we did I did the noise reduction at 20%, which in my experience has been probably a good place to look somewhat real and not go too fake or too AI. But huge difference from what I can see here. Huge difference. His eyes are sharper. There's like, I mean, his face has like hardly any grain on it. And then even in the shadows, where we're going to look down here, where we're pushing the file a little bit, that's when you start to get a lot more color artifacts, is when you push your file, stop. Looks amazing. So really, really nice tool to have up your sleeve. Would I use an X-T5 for work? Sure. I don't have one right now because I have too many cameras. You know, there's such a thing. And that would cause me to have, you know, 2 sets of Canon lenses and, you know, 3 sets of lenses. So right now I'm using a lot of the Canon EF stuff on my Fuji, which has been nice. So, but yeah, I think this has been a really fun test, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I finally got the ink, got the paper, got everything calibrated. And so, yeah, this is pretty cool. So download those images. Let me know what you think, because you can look at, you know, the raw images and the photos of the prints, and then the JPEG output. Because really what's going to matter is your JPEG output to your client. Over the years, you know, I've embraced grain more and more because it's pretty, in my opinion. I think it's creative. It's, you know, can make an artistic photo. But yeah, so it's really cool that we have these tools. I don't want to rely on them too much because it's more process for me to do for work. I've made presets for myself that streamline a lot of it. So just like a noise reduction preset, you just click it, put it on the loop deck, and if it's something you need to do, just tap it and let it go. Or do multiple images at once. And you always want to do that after you've edited so that it's not slowing you down. So yeah, I'm going to just quickly look at the computer here and just kind of go through a couple images and just kind of explain the differences that I found between the 2 cameras. And see on here. Oops. All right, so I'm just going to compare the high resolution ones. So this is enhanced on the right with the X-T5 and the GFX on the left. And I do think the GFX looks better. But again, once you print it, that's where it matters. And on the print, I couldn't tell. This is why I wanted to do prints, because I'm looking at pixels all day long, and that's all I have to compare. And so this was really nice to compare the two. So you can see a little bit of the noise in the background, just is what it is. These are at 100 ISO. And then let's look at the 2 comparisons in low light with on the left, the GFX. We'll look at the background. And then look at the background on the X-T5. You can see that green. You know, there is a perspective difference and a shallower depth of field. Well, not a shallower depth of field, more compression, as well as a shallow depth of field. And then let me zoom in on the right here, just so I have same comparison. Right about there, probably. You can see that grain. Significantly more grain on the X-T5. And then let's look at sorry, clicking around here. All right, now I want to look at the noise reduction one. We'll just compare that to 2 X-T5s. How about that? So the noise reduction on the X-T5. And let's sync them. So significant difference. I mean, you can watch videos on noise reduction all day long. It's amazing. The only issue I've found is some of my GFX files get funky and add color artifacts. I don't know why that is, but it just happens. And then here is a photo of one of my wife. And if we zoom in, we have the GFX on the left, and on the right, X-T5. And if we go apples to apples, let's zoom in. There we go. All right. Yeah, just significantly different. Cool. And then just for fun, I'm going to show you a couple more images. These just are a comparison. Let's go with the GFX on the left And then on the right, we have the X-T5 with the 56 millimeter, 100 millimeter, 105 millimeter on the left. And it just kind of shows that you can pull off some amazing images with a crop sensor with that 56 millimeter. It's pretty darn amazing. I was really impressed. And then again, you're getting a little more field of view, but still with ease of use. There we go, snowing out there. Let's see if these will render. Just a very impressive kit. Well, I mean, they're both impressive and they're both amazing, but the X-T5 is really fun. So if that's something you're considering, I wouldn't hesitate. Yeah, I think the X-T5, I'm using the R6 II mainly for work, as well as the R5 for portraits. And I'll make another video if you haven't seen that one. Go watch that one when it's out. They'll probably come out together. R5 versus R6 II. So, and that's mainly image quality and yeah, high ISO. So, yeah, hopefully this was helpful. It helped me a lot. Both of these tests, the Canon and this one, the Fuji, just to kind of know that like pretty much any camera you're going to buy today at high ISO is going to do great. Used to use flash all the time. Now I'm just popping a little video light somewhere if I need to, make my clients stand out from the background. But usually I can use ambient light and no problem. You've got your stabilized sensors now, your high ISO, a lot of low aperture lens options. Like it's amazing what you can capture these days. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't know what else to say about this, but maybe if I find some in the future, I'll just throw it in the comments or the description. Also on my website, eliroberts.com, under For Photographers, under info, you can, that might move that tab, but you can go find this information, anything that I add later, as well as mainly the links to download the images. So that'll be at the top of the description of this video, and then watch out for the Canon one. So thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. It helps a lot. And yeah, all the comments are great too. Have a good day.